Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 323 of Picks and Ponies here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thank you very much for joining us tonight as we are in a cover like a glove. Big day this Saturday in California. It is Cal Cup Day, a celebration of the California breds, and we'll be talking about it right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Hit the notification bell so that you know when new content will arise, and smash that like button. We greatly appreciate it. You can follow me on X right there at H Kravitz. We're close to 2,000 followers, folks. We need your help, though. Please follow us on X, and also you can email me, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com as well. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. The tip sheet got off to a great start last week with two nice scores at Aqueduct. The ROI already fabulous. Please check out our Power Picks tip sheet. If you're interested in getting some expert analysis that comes out on Saturdays, look below the video player for information about our Power Picks tip sheet through Patreon, website, HHH Racing Podcast, which we're going to talk about a little bit tonight with Pete Visco about an addition that has come up on the podcast. Also, we have an Instagram page, instagram.com/HHH Racing Podcast. All right, that will cover it real quick. So, got a exciting card to talk about, a few other tidbits in the news as always. So, without further ado, let me bring on my wonderful co-hosts. We'll do it the opposite way this time. First, from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and he has his pulse. He has his ear to the Sierra Leone news, and there was some news coming out today, which our podcast is very excited about. And, of course, from the Saratoga Special, Mr. Paul Halloran. And from the East Coast of Maryland, maybe he has some opinions on our show from this Monday, where there's some big goings on right now in Maryland racing, right by his neck of the woods. Let's bring him on, Pete Visco. Guys, decided to go with the hoodie tonight. I pulled out the HHH Racing Podcast hoodie. It was collecting some, dust. I had to represent. How you guys doing tonight?
Not too bad. What's up, gentlemen?
Everything's great. We have an opening for a football coach up here, if you know anyone.
Oh, at your local high school?
No,
a local pro team.
Oh, that guy, that Belichick guy. Is that okay?
Yes.
I thought Mayo was getting it. I read today a bunch of places.
He seems to be the favorite, Pete. But,
I assume Vrabel would complicate that a bit because he would be a fun
That's
choice.
exactly right. I think Vrabel getting canned does complicate it.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone throughout the country except Paul would love to have New England get a great, successful head coach and do well. Right, Pete?
Yeah, I mean they've been struggling for so long that we really need some good luck now.
Suffering Patriot fans.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Super Bowl
Doesn't matter who's coaching them. If they don't get a quarterback, that league's all about the quarterback. Folks.
Yeah.
And if they don't get a quarterback.
Us Bears fans understand.
Yes, you do. That's correct.
Keep Justin Fields, guys. Big question here the next few months.
I haven't watched enough of them to.
Okay. All right.
It's a tough call. I've seen enough. It's a tough one.
Okay. I say no, but anyway, that's the story. We talked about that.
Well, I'll tell you what. Caleb Williams is not the answer. So don't.
See, I go the other way. I like Caleb Williams.
Really?
I don't think he's the answer.
Paul's all about morals and values, and Pete and I are like, he's got talent. Fuck it. Let's.
Yeah.
I have no morals or values, so I don't need to look for that in other people either.
Well, Pete, I'll tell you what you do have is you've helped us tremendously on the podcast with the website. And we texted earlier today, there's an addition to the website. I'm going to bring it on right now. I think it's worth talking before we talk about California. Let me bring it up on the screen. Tell everyone an addition to the HHH Racing Podcast website.
Yeah, I was thinking about, there's always trouble when it's Derby season. So if you look on sort of the little menu there, you see Kentucky Derby and Oaks. So one thing you're always looking for is, hey, I want to watch that. I want to watch those. I'm looking at my PPs and I want to watch a past Derby prep. So one thing we wanted to do is say, well, why don't we just start putting some Kentucky Derby and Oaks information on our website, organize it so it's nice and easy. You can find it quick.
Ooh, a countdown.
Yeah, we got a countdown. Although if you really were a stickler, the way the countdown works on our website, it only goes to the half hour, so it's not exact to the minutes and seconds. So unfortunately, you're a real stickler, but it's close. It's going to get you there. So, and we don't know the post time for the Derby or the Oaks just yet. So, it's close enough. It's still the days, the hours aren't too far off. So,
and what else we got here, Pete?
You have the countdown, and then there's just a link to KentuckyDerby.com because there's a bunch of great information there. So if you click on that, but then here we're sort of some useful links where the first one is the Derby Points Leaderboard, which we obviously all know what that's about, but you can check that weekly to see after each weekend's round of Derby preps, where do the horses stand. The next one is the Derby prep races. It's just a good list of all the races so you can see which ones we've had and which ones are coming up. And you can see it's for the Oaks and there's a little tab for the Oaks and the Derby. But this is nice. You could see you could see basically everything up through the last prep. And then the other one is just some future wager details. So you can click on that. You can see some of the Derby pools, the Derby future wager pools. You can see past pool results. You can see when the upcoming pools are. So you can plan accordingly. And then if you go down, then you see the Derby prep replays. So what we're going to do is we're going to update this probably like every Monday or so after the weekend is up. We'll add whatever those weekends races are. And these are just the official Derby points prep races. So there won't be any, like if there was a horse that wins a maiden special weight that looks like could be pointing to the Derby eventually, that's not on here. These are just the Derby prep races. So you could see all the links to YouTube videos there. So you can find them all in one place. So please come to the hhhracingpodcast.com and you can find everything you need Derby and Oaks related, hopefully. And we're going to maybe put like top 10 lists, stuff like that as we start to work through the season.
My top 10 list is very simple. Number 1, Sierra Leone. Number 2, Sierra Leone. Number 3.
So hopefully we'll put one up with a little bit more detail than that. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement. I think we're all, because that doesn't help us with the trifecta. Sierra Leone still has to have 2 other horses underneath and 3 for the super. So, we want to get everybody, it's all 1 and then the rest. How's that?
There you go. We got a lot of people. We got, let's see here, Penn State Scott. Pete, tell me you're going to the Breeders' Cup this year at Del Mar. Pete?
We'll see if we qualify. I told him in my comment. I also my wife and I just planned 2 trips in October, so we'll see if November I might need some cash, so I might have to hit the BCBC to make some cash.
All right. Tom Espinoza. Tom, good evening, all. Listening and walking the dog right now, and speaking of walking the dog, that feels like a turf race at New York. But anyway, we don't have to worry about those for a while, Pete.
Make sure you pick up your poops, Tom. Don't leave any while you're listening. Pick up.
We like to poo, but not in that situation.
Not in that situation. Yeah, we don't like that.
From a dog owner. There you go, Pete.
Yes.
By the way, guys, I don't know if you two even know this. Tom Espinoza will be our guest Monday with you, Pete, and myself. For our Horse and Around show, and we're going to focus sort of on California racing. We're going to piggyback off of today's show. Tom lives right by Golden Gate and has been a huge fan of California racing. So we're going to talk about many things, but that'll be on the schedule. Robbie Courtney from Texas is here. What's up? Jim Pilar's. I need Pete to help me organize my tax records.
You don't want me anywhere near anything related to money, Jim. Trust me on that. I can tell you that much.
Wow. All right. Don Allen needs some help. He's depressed. Wow, I'm depressed with Saban retiring. Only some winners this weekend will break me out of it. Wow, Don, I'm sorry you're that upset about a football coach, but pretty damn good career, guys. Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And what I'll tell you, that he's like a horse who doesn't lose anything in defeat. They played great against Michigan, who was by far the best team. They were right there with Michigan, so nothing to be ashamed of there.
Yes, for sure. Last thing before we talk about the races, guys, Paul, as I think most people know by now, we all are cheering for Sierra Leone to make a big run and get to the Kentucky Derby and win the damn thing. Breaking news today. You want to tell everyone about it, please?
Yes, he will run on February 17th at Fairgrounds in the Risen Star. Now, interestingly, that's 1.125 miles. Fairgrounds changed their distances a few years ago to really be a lead up to the Derby. They go 1.125 miles, and then I believe they go 1.316 miles with the Louisiana Derby.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
And then Howard, Chad Brown. I'm looking at a blood horse story right now by Bob Ehalt, my friend Bob Ehalt, who does a great job for the blood horse. On to either the Bluegrass at Keeneland on April 6th or the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct.
Oh, so he's not going to run in the Louisiana Derby. Interesting.
This is what the story says. And as you and I were talking before we came on the air, Howard, Chad says, I like the 1.125 miles distance of the Risen Star. I like the longer stretch, and the track plays more fair than Gulfstream Park, which maybe favors speed horses and has a shorter stretch.
Right. And I think you could say the same thing for Keeneland. Keeneland may be a little more speed favor, but you can close a Keeneland going 1.125 miles. You could definitely close it in New York. So he's sticking to the 1.125 miles. Not easy off of the Remsen, off that break to go into the 1.125 miles Risen Star, but looks like Sierra Leone will have 2 bites at the apple. There's plenty of points out there, Pete, and people can go on the website, coincidentally, and check it out. I mean, if he can't qualify in those 2 races, he probably just doesn't deserve to be in the Derby, right?
No, that's the way it is. I mean, and I think some of the horses now, they get put in that position where you better have your horses ready because they don't run in too many preps like they used to back in the day. So if you're going to have your 2, that horse better be sharp the first time they come out. But yeah, if you hit the board in the first one, you're in pretty good shape. And if you can hit the board in twice, we expect them to win. Hopefully, if you win one, you're pretty much in at that point.
Was it we'll move on here, but the second to last is what, 50, 30, 20?
Something like that, yeah. I always forget the...
So if you finish second, even in the second to last preps, you have a decent shot.
Yeah, in that one, yeah.
And then the last one's what, 150?
Those are 100. Actually, I'm just trying to...
30 or something. So he could finish... He could finish he could probably get 2/3 and probably.
The Risen Star is 50, 25, 15, 10, 5, and then say we went to
just win it and be done with it.
Well,
yeah, just win it. I mean, in the end, right? That's all you want to do. Just win the damn thing. That's like they say in the movies, right? Just win the damn
thing. And then he's in. 50, you're in at 50.
The Wood and the Bluegrass are 150, 25, 15, 10. So yeah,
even if he finishes third, he's in.
Yeah, then you're in.
I got to tell you what, though, the Wood is on a long losing streak as far as winning the Derby.
Yeah,
it is.
So,
yeah, just from a karma standpoint, I don't know if you want to go to the Wood, but
someone's got to break the mold at some point. Final comments, then move on. Let's see. Marco Perez is here from LA. What's up, Marco? We're going to be covering your track, man, here in just a minute. And Chris Couples, big fan of the show. Thanks seeing Howard's tweet. I remember to tune in. I don't have the Saturday work done, but always enjoy listening. Chris, you don't have to do the Saturday work. We are doing the Saturday work for you, my friend. So you don't have to bother looking at the PPs. All right, guys, let's get into it. We got 6 races we're actually going to talk about. First race we're going to talk about very quickly. It's outside of the pick 5. I will say, guys, and look, I don't want to poo-poo California. I love California racing. But I remember the days of Best Pal and some other, great California breds and the field sizes, Paul. It's disappointing. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and we're not going to lie about it. You got 5-horse field in some of these races. You think they could get bigger fields. Maybe it's just that's just the way it is these days. But that is slightly disappointing in some of the races.
Yeah, I wasn't. I didn't have my socks knocked off. You could see they're still on. So I did not have my socks knocked off by the card. I don't know. I mean, I'm probably a New York slob, and I love the New York bred races. I've never been, warm and fuzzy with the Cal-bred races anyway. Yeah. I mean, I'll be playing them. Don't get me wrong. I will support the product. Don't get me wrong.
For sure. No, we understand. All right, let's get into it. This is outside of the pick 5, guys. This is the California Chrome. What a
Chromie. Oh, I should have worn my Chromie shirt.
The Chromies will be out for the Cal Cup Derby. It's 2 p.m. local, 5 p.m. Eastern. And again, this is outside of the late pick 5. They have nice purses, $200,000 for restricted Cal-breds. They're going 1 mile and a 16th. This is for 3-year-olds. Small field of 5 right there. I'm just going to go ahead and show the picks. We're not even going to show the PPs, guys, but here's race 4. There's our picks. I'm going with the 5 Wild Jewels, who is the morning line favorite, which I was a little surprised by, guys, to be honest. 9-5. Pete and Paul, you're going with Last Call London. Pete will go with you first. Peter Miller, 2-1. JJ just sat outside Stolen Treasure last time with the Dream Trip, but did get the job done.
Yeah, it's funny. The first thing I thought of was this reminded me of my youth with the harness races, because you get a race coming back where you get 4 horses from the last one in a 5-horse field. You got 4 of them that ran against, right? 4 of them, I think, ran
Yes.
in that
1,
last
2,
race
3, 4
together.
all ran against
Yeah,
each other.
yeah, which I love. I actually like that. I that's what I loved about harness was the week to week battles between the same horses. But yeah, I thought this one.
I'll do this, Pete. Sorry, go ahead. I'll
Oh,
do
there
that.
you
There's
go.
the last
Yeah.
race. Go ahead. You can talk.
I actually think it may just work out very similar. I mean, the 5-horse Wild Jewels puts a wrench in that, but I think the 5 will sort of sit a similar trip to Last Call London. So Wild Jewels and I think Last Call London will be looking for potentially similar trips. And I think the 1 Last Call London just from the rail is just going to sit and the speed will go out. And I think the 3 Stolen Treasure is probably going to be the speed again. And I think goes out. And I think Last Call London might just be better and be able to run him down. I think the extra distance is going to help this horse. It's out of Stay Thirsty and a Bernardini, who's out of Bernardini. I think the extra distance helps. I like JJ Hernandez on this horse. And I just think everything fits. And I think the field isn't that different. So I think the result will be pretty much the same. And you're getting a horse, not the favorite morning line, which I think surprised me a bit as well.
Paul, who will go off the favorite, though? Will it be Last Call London?
That's a good question, Howard. I didn't. Again, we always say this. I did not have the odds, but I had a feeling the 5 was going to be around the morning line favorite, and there's nothing wrong with the 5, but and no disrespect to our friends in Northern California, but this horse has ventured south once, and lost to 2 of these horses that are in this race. I don't want any part of the 5 as the favorite, or even the near favorite. So that was my thinking there. I'm a big company guy, and if you go to that graduation stakes that I just referenced with that Wild Jews came down from, Last Call London lost by a head to Lord Prancelot, whom I think would be a pretty good choice in this race. So that's how I landed at Last Call London.
I just went with the Wild Jewels, but again, I'm assuming you guys handicapped this without the morning lines. I didn't think Wild Jewels to be the favorite at all. I thought I was going to get like a cheeky kind of 3-1 morning line. I mean, I would never bet this horse on the win end at 9-5. I don't have a lot to add other than I just did love the Los Al race. I mean, I don't know, the one just tracked the 3 and just went by, and not that this 5 has really done anything. I don't have any clever opinions here, guys, to be honest. I think the 5 is going to drift off that 9-5. I could be wrong. And, people are concerned about, and we'll go ahead and just move on to the next race here in a second. If people are concerned about Howard, well, this horse might be better on Poly or Sin. I mean, he's just going to be sitting on the outside in theory without getting kickback. So if the Wild Jewels had the rail, guys, I'd be much more against him and worried about the kickback. But because he's on the outside and in theory can just stalk the 3 with your guys 1 probably just sitting in the pocket and behind, I don't think Wild Jew's going to have to worry about kickback, Pete. So that was something that I considered. I don't know if that's thinking or not. But,
no, I mean, I think that's logical. I mean, it's a 5-horse field with probably 4 of them have a half decent explainable shot. I guess the one thing is, the one question would have is, $1 pick 6 starts here. So what would you guys do in here? Would you just sort of say, screw it, there's only 5 horses, I'm going to pick the one I like and maybe single it. And then if it doesn't work, then I just move on to the pick 5. Because, I mean, it's a decent play. I'm sure people will be looking into that.
Paul, you're the serial horizontal player. I'm the junior serial horizontal player.
Yeah, I'd be trying to beat the 5, Pete. I have an opinion against the 5. It's the type of horse, and not that the 1 is going to be any huge price, but
yeah.
We've talked a million times. If you're playing ABC, it's one thing. If you're playing a caveman, you certainly don't want to try to use 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yep.
I agree. All right, let's go on to the pick 5, guys. Late pick 5 starts with the Leanne Howard California Cup Oaks. This is for the girls, a mile on the turf. This is all Cal-breds, of course, everyone. This is for the 3-year-old fillies. Interesting field here of 9. The Moorline favorite is the number 9, Grand Slam Smile, for Steve Speck, who's got a bunch of horses coming in from Golden Gate, and Frank Alvarado, excellent rider from Northern California, 5-2. Let's go ahead and show the banners right now. There they are. Howard and Pete are going with Asada Fries, while Paul is going to go with sushi sticks. We got sushi and we got fries. Paul prefers sushi. Paul, what do you prefer about sushi sticks?
That's kind of ironic because I don't know that Paul would eat sushi at gunpoint.
But I'd rather stick with the petite fillet. I'd like the petite fillet. I think me and Paul are probably on.
Yeah, what is with all the food references?
Well, and how about later on when we come out with the 2 ransom horses right next to each other later on in the sequence?
And we got putt for dough. We got dough, fillet, fries, and sushi. Anyone hungry?
And candy. We got candy too.
And candy. I haven't eaten yet. I'm getting.
We got the whole meal. We got basically got the whole meal covered here. So this is a good race.
All right, Paul.
It's kind of funny. I was just listening today to a podcast that Nick Luck had Mike Rapoli on for over an hour, if you want to be entertained. They went at each other pretty good, too. It was well done. But, he was talking about that he does send horses all over the place. And here we are in California.
Yeah.
Although this horse has run in California all 3 times. This is a bargain purchase for a guy like Mike Rapoli for $105,000, assuming he's had him from the beginning. It looks like he has. I like this horse. I kind of threw out the middle race, Howard. The Open Company race, that Surfer Girl that obviously had a much better field than this, and you're left with a maiden win and a decent third on synthetic up at Golden Gate. I like Mike McCarthy, and obviously on turf, I love Pratt. I thought that there were 3 or 4 who could win, as you'll see when we get to our pick 5s, but he was my tepid choice.
She's goofy, Paul. Did you watch some of her replays? She was very rank in that October 8th race. She was inside. She's also, by the way, very gray. She's not white. I mean, but this is a very light gray horse, which means absolutely nothing for the PPs other than just I thought I'd bring it up. But she's goofy, Paul. She's not real professional. That's my only concern with her, but she's talented. And if she sits the right trip, she's got a big shot. Did you notice who she lost to last time, by the way?
Yeah, Wild Jewels. So you got to see how that one runs.
Wild Jewels.
Yeah.
So there you go, Paul. If you want to get some insight on maybe on sushi sticks, check out the form of Wild Jewels in the race that we just talked about. She's definitely got a shot. Interesting. Rapoli Cal-bred. Interesting. Pete, you and I are going to go with Asada Fries for Craig Lewis and JJ, who's a really good rider. I especially like the race 2 back, where it looked like she finally learned to rate and finish, and it looks like she's improving. That's what I liked about this one. What did you like about Asada Fries?
Well, 2 things. One, I guess, just to remind you, I know you like to show the time form, the pace picture.
That.
I think that because that for me that was sort of a key thing in this race here. So if you look, there's a fast pace projected, and you sort of see that when you look through the PPs. So I was looking for horses who are potentially could be either tactical or come from the back, but maybe not too far back. And this one, like you said, Asada Fries last out, or actually in the last 2, was able to come off the pace a bit. So this seems like a horse they were just trying to figure out. First couple races sort of sat a little bit too far back. Then they put the horse on the lead, see what she can do there. Then they figured out, well, let's try and rate the horse a little bit, see what we can do there. And she sort of responded to that. And even in the last race, the last one was on dirt. She had sort of her lifetime buyer top. I didn't think Joelle gave the best ride either. I remember watching the replay because I was watching it without realizing who the jockey was. And I'm like, well, that's a weird ride. Why is he doing that? And then I looked and I was like, it's Rosario. This is one of his weirdo rides. So I just looked at this horse. I thought she was getting better. Her turf, from a figure standpoint, her turf buyers are improving, but her time forms are really good. So it's from a time form standpoint in those turf races, they're really moving up. Like you see the 91 2 back, that's more of like a 71 from a buyer scale. So when I'm looking at that, I'm seeing the improvement. I like getting Hernandez back up. So I think there's a lot of things pointing in an upward trending direction for this horse. And I think the pace is going to suit her as well.
Yep. I agree with everything that you said. Siggy Mendoza, thanks during the show, mentioned Petite Filet, who has only been on turf once, but on the dam side, there is quite a bit of turf pedigree. So I think there's Carnivorous. Yes, Carnivorous was the one of the siblings there. So the Petite Filet I actually have in the mix. I think that horse is interesting, sort of as the fuzzy, although she might have to close in a race that's got a lot of speed. Paul, I don't know if you noticed the time format Suchi sticks in last. Would that be a concern? Or I guess if there's a fast pace, it wouldn't be a concern because they have it as a fast pace also.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I think it is going to be a fast pace. And I'm not going to get overly concerned with Mr. Pratt up top. I'm assuming he'll be in the right spot at the right time because he almost always is on turf.
Pete, thoughts on Grand Slam Smile, and then we'll move on. I've got that horse, or we'll let Paul talk on one more horse if he wants to. But I thought this horse was interesting. Again, has to stretch out, but has some turf breeding. I'm again worried about the pace scenario though for this one.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I mean, I had the horse as an A. I had the horse in second, so obviously I like her, but she's you're not 100% sure. The sire side was 7% wins turf routes, so that was a little. The dam side was only 1 for 19 wins on the turf overall. So there is, you look at it and go, there's a little bit of turf you can maybe point to, but for the most part, the numbers don't point that way. So it gave me a little bit of pause. And then Steve Speck, the trainer, 2 for 27 wins, first time turf, not first time starters. So ones that have run on something else. So there were enough things to where if I'm trying to beat a 5-2 shot, there were enough angles against a 5-2 shot for me to say, I could maybe see this horse not. And then you get the outside post too. There were just enough things I thought that can give you some pause.
Paul, have you ever pranced through Paris?
Paris, Las Vegas, about 50 times. Yes,
many times.
You got this horse in second, Paul.
Close. Yeah, I thought this horse. 1 for 1 on turf, albeit a 5 furlong sprint in the debut, but pretty good turf breeding. Freysu, I like a lot.
Yes.
I thought this. I think this horse is right in the mix here. This horse would be an A in an ABC sequence for me.
I had this horse as an A too, Paul. It was my 4th horse, and the one thing that threw me a little bit was just ran on the first. So coming back in, it'll be 12 days. Peter Urton was 0 for 18, 10 to 15 days back. So that was one that got me a little bit worried, but I liked what you said. I thought the turf breeding, there's some great at stakes winning turf routers on the sire side. So I think this one can come back and you get a nice price, especially maybe hitting the board, if nothing else.
I respectfully prefer not to talk about my ABCs because it's on our great Power Picks tip sheet that people can look into. Plus, by the way, we do have Kentucky Derby news that I write up every 2 weeks. So once every other week will be Kentucky Derby information as well, in addition to what we have on the website, Pete. So you have to have a yearly subscription. You have to have a yearly subscription to our Power Picks tip sheet for that. We'll keep people fully involved in the Oaks and the Derby, which, by the way, the Derby $5 million purse now was announced.
About time, man.
For the Kentucky Derby. Wow.
Long overdue. That should have been the highest priced race in the country.
Well, except for the Breeders' Cup Classic.
No, I'm saying it should be at one of the one of the two. It shouldn't be like this. That was just ridiculous.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the second leg. The second leg of the Pick 5 is the only one that's not a stake race. Allowance optional, claiming 20,000. Of course, it's for Cal-breds. They're going 6.5 furlongs. I don't know if you guys saw. There is already a scratch, by the way. The 2 Seaboard will not be running. It's a field of 7. Moreline favorite number 3, Minister Shane, for Carla Gaines, and the aforementioned Freysu. Let's go with our picks on the screen. There they are. I'm going at the 7. Paul's going at the 4. Pete's going with the 5. We are all over the place. Excuse me. Paul, let's go with you. You're going with Crypto Ride 8-1 with an apprentice jockey and Leonard Powell. Very interesting.
Yeah, well, Leonard does have good numbers when taking over. I mean, this is a bit of a drop. He's been running for 50, and the thing about it, while the horse isn't winning, they've protected the horse every time. The last
Yeah.
4 races, they could have had a tag on him, and they didn't.
Can
They
you
bring him
tell,
back.
hey, Paul, for people that aren't familiar with it, it took me a while to even understand this. Can you
Sure.
explain to people how you know that by looking at the form? Because some people don't even
Sure.
understand that.
Right. So if you look at the race up top, you'll see the S for state bred, obviously, and then OC. That means optional claimer. That means if you run a horse in this race, it's a 20. You can opt to have the horse available to be claimed for $20,000, or you can just not have that option. And if you look at the crypto ride in the last 4 races. The type of race it was, you'll see the -N, and that means not it means not available for claim.
Right.
And so that's that. So, and the other thing is, if you look at the 1 in this race, Howard, Jamming Eddie, how you know who's available in this race or not, you'll see the claiming price right in the
Yes.
PPs.
Right
So
above the
jamming
weight, right there that I'm highlighting above the weight.
Jamming Eddie, yeah, I'm on the classic. It'll be right
Right.
to the left of that. But yes, so in this race, Jamming Eddie is actually the only horse available to be claimed. None of the so in all of these other horses PPs, next time it'll have that -N.
Yeah. I thought that was worth talking about. A lot of people don't know or care. I personally care. But anyway, what else do you like about this horse? It's off a layoff, Paul.
Yeah, he's off a layoff, which again, Leonard Powell's pretty good there. A couple of those races I think were sneaky good. The last 2 were really not great. Excuse me. But the 2 before that, I think either of those, any progression off either of those, puts him in the mix here. So, yeah, I think he's again another spread race for me.
I actually don't have the 4 anywhere, but you're convincing me to use the 4 one way or another. Pete, El Rey Dorado, 3-1 morning line. This looks like, I did it again, Pete. I have to keep remembering to do that. I wanted to show the time form. I think this is the speed of the speed. No, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
favorites front runners. So there you go, right?
And that was pretty much it. I did not like this race that much. I did not have a super strong opinion when I went through it. So when I was looking at it, I'm like, this horse, it's one that maybe you see. One thing we always talk about on here is, did something change to maybe flip this horse's form or something? So this one was running the maiden specials, switches trainer to Rees. They dropped the horse down to maiden claiming, try and get the win. Runs a nice second, then gets a nice win. And then you figure, sometimes you look at that and go, had to drop down and do it. It's not that impressive. But then jumps up to an optional claiming 50, similar to we were talking about with the 4, and runs a really nice race and wins with the lifetime buyer top. Runs a decent, it's backed up by the time form number. So I'm thinking maybe this horse is just on the up and up. And if you can get this one on the lead and gets a clear lead and a relatively easy lead, I guess that'll be dependent upon the 7 Bags Gold, what they do with that horse maybe.
Yeah.
I think in a race where I don't like much, I don't mind having the speed at least as my top choice.
Yeah, I'm definitely using this horse. I think this horse is interesting for sure. I prefer the 7, who you just mentioned, Bags Gold, who just looks a little faster to me. I think could track right off of your
By the way, the
horse.
5 is coming back in 7 days. I didn't mention that. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off there.
But I'd have to look at the stats.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is Dettori. Dettori doesn't jump on horses for no reason in this meet. And obviously he's, Dettori's got off to a decent start. This horse just looks like the stalker to me, Pete. And I think if he's good enough, he'll go by the 5 and win. I'm hoping that's the trip he gets. It took him a while to break his maiden. I'm not big a fan of that, and he had to do it at the maiden 45 level. I'm not a fan of that, but Hess seems to have this horse in the right direction. Claimed him from Paul Aguirre, and so I'm going with Bags Gold again. Nothing overly creative. 3-1 morning line. Any other horses you guys have a choice on? Who else you'd like to mention? And then we'll move on. Pete, we'll go with you first. Who you like? Anyone else?
I like the 3 a little bit. That was the horse I had in second. Paul, you have in second as well. I just thought if you take away the turf races and you just looked at the dirt, they're pretty solid. So it's not a huge. And then I liked Two Back ran against Booksmart, who's a real high quality horse, and wasn't within 2 lengths of Booksmart with a pretty high buyer. The time form again didn't flatter the horse that much, but that was sort of a drop down into that company, into the optional claiming 20. Then they go back on the turf where I'm not sure this horse is as good. And that was a pretty decent level. We've seen Beef Winslow, Booksmart, King Apollo. Those are pretty solid horses. Now we're coming back down. So I think this one at least makes sense, sort of fits. We always say this one's maybe running where they belong, at the level they belong now.
That's my other A, by the way, Pete and Paul.
The 3.
Number 3. Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I would have said the same horse if you had asked. I agree with Pete. I had the 3 second and also an A for me.
Okay, very good. And in general, to close out this race, I try to avoid horses that are in for the claim. And I realize, Paul, that a lot of them are winners and they win often and they pass their condition. I just prefer horses that are not for sale. I mean, just pretty much for me, it's that simple. So it's not end all be all. I'm assuming you guys look at that. I don't know if you have the same philosophy that I do, but I do take that into consideration. So
yeah, I mean, and this horse has been this horse has consistently been running straight claiming races other than the allowance 3 back. So if they claim, they claim the horse for 16 and have since run him for 32 twice, 3 times, and 25 once. So now they're running 20. They're trying to make a little profit on
Make a little money.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to race 7, Sunshine Millions, filly and mare, turf sprint. I'm not a huge fan of turf sprints, but I love down the hill. I know it's a turf sprint technically, but it doesn't feel that way to me. I mean, I don't like 5 furlong turf sprints. 6 furlongs anywhere, 6.5, I don't mind. Nice field, 150,000. Field of 8. Morning favorite is the number 6. Stay and Scam for O'Neill and Gutierrez. Let me go ahead and bring up the picks, and I'm going with Stay and Scam. Pete and Paul, there we go. Simpatico with one of the roses. You got a choice of one of 2 roses. You like a Dawson? You like a Maddox? No, they're going to say screw Rose Dawson. Of course, everyone knows the Titanic knows that name. They're going to go with Rose Maddox, who, guys, I don't know who is Rose Maddox. I don't know who that is. But that's
I actually looked it up earlier, and now I cannot remember what the hell it was. It was an older singer, maybe. It was something.
Okay.
It was from way back, and it was something. I was like, maybe should I have heard of this? And no, when I saw who she was, it was not something I should have known. But I can't remember.
Greg Maddox's grandmother.
Different. No, he's UX, as you know.
Oh, you're right.
Maybe Rose.
Wow, that's maybe right there.
Maybe Rose Maddox didn't let her boyfriend die in a ship crash.
Maybe not, right? maybe she's got a little more class than that. She was an American country singer, songwriter, and fiddle player.
Oh.
It looks like. Who I assume that's who was the lead singer with the Maddox Brothers and Rose before a successful solo career. Hillbilly music, rockabilly, and gospel combination. So there you go.
Paul,
that's why she was.
Paul, you must know this artist well, then, Paul.
Yeah.
Probably saw in person, right? He was like,
if you want any more information, you could tune into WGAF at 11.
All right.
Anyway,
what do you guys say about the horse?
I like the 2 a lot here. In fact, I really do. If you recall, Howard, the previous race was on Breeders' Cup Friday, and I just thought the horse, even down the hill, the 11 hole is, that's a 11 out of 11 is tough stuff, and didn't run badly. Only missed by 2 3/4.
Let's watch the stretch. She's the 13. So, but again, the far outside post is a good post going that distance. I'm trying to pick her up here.
She's the gray. Yeah, she's the gray.
Okay. So she is pretty wide, though. Like, it's a tougher competition.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I mean, she's got a fair shot here, but I just think if we had our old friends from Trackus, you would see that she was wide. She's not wide now. He gets her in, but yeah, I mean, it shouldn't run great. It was an open race, obviously. Took some money, went off at 5-1. And I just think she gets a much better trip here. She gets an upgrade, Nothing wrong with Pereira, but she goes to Pratt. And I didn't really like the other rows. And I do like that Stay and Scam. You could talk about that horse. I thought he was more an underneath play for me,
Okay.
but certainly will be using.
By the way, totally on his side, the horse that won the Rose Max race was like 25-1. And Dylan Donnelly, who's an excellent handicapper and contest player who we've had on the show, who was the day one leader at the BCBC, that particular horse was huge for him. He made a big play. And Paul, if you remember, he's the one that had like 60,000 on day one. And that
Yeah.
horse is actually the one that boosted him way up in that race. Just a little side note there. It was early in the card on Friday. Breeders' Cup. Let's talk about the 6. Sorry, Pete. Did you want to add anything to?
No, I think we
Rose
we
Maddox?
covered
Okay.
the 2. I like the 2 a lot as well, though. So I'm with Paul
Okay.
there.
I like the 2. I like Stay and Scam. She is more tactical, and boy, I mean, this horse is getting good, isn't she, guys? I mean, the last 2 races, she's really stepped up her game. Maybe she's just maturing. It's Redham and Gutierrez. I know some people don't love him, but he's good with Redham. He's their main first call for Redham Racing and O'Neill. I mean, she's done absolutely nothing wrong. That last number might be inflated, guys, because it was 5 furlongs, but she did it really well. And again, against open company. And I prefer a little bit of an outer post. I'm not a big I don't really take works of turf horses in consideration, but guys, she followed up with some good works, including a 58. I mean, wow. I mean, a bullet. So I don't know. This horse is obviously feeling good. I'm going to Stay and Scam and then Rose Maddox. Again, it was hard for me to find a lot of prices, guys, in this sequence. It really was.
I like this. So the thing that scared me about this one, and I'm not 100% sure why, because she ran well 2 back going this configuration, but I thought maybe she would like it a little shorter, and that was what knocked her
Yeah,
sort of down
that's
a
fair.
peg or 2. But she was
Yep.
she was sort of on the A line for me, like on the one of the last ones on the A line. But
Yeah.
I thought maybe a little bit short, and so maybe could maybe fade just a touch late,
Yep.
and like a horse like Rose Maddox could pass her.
Well, it might set up for we'll see how the track is playing. Remember, Chancery Way is fast, really fast. So, she's going to go. My thinking here, guys, whether it's correct or not, is that unwritten code. And we should show. Let me go to the time form. I don't know why I keep forgetting that. Sorry, everyone at home. You go to the time form. It looks like the 4 and 8, like it says, are going to battle. And if Chancery Way takes any pace pressure from the 4, it sure looks like it's going to set up. And I agree with time form. I thought the 6 would just lay off those and get first run on your Rose horses, which might just blow by everyone late. But I do think the 6 is more likely to get a better trip than the deep closers, although the deep closers, you could argue, are better horses, right? So it's interesting, guys, to figure out here.
Yeah, I had the 6. My note was that the 6 would get first run
Yeah.
and probably get the lead, and then the hope would be if you have the 2, would be the 2 can overtake her.
Yeah, it should be a fun race. I love the downhill races. It'll be interesting to see if the 8 gets loose. She could be tough, but I don't see the 8 getting loose, and so we'll see what happens, guys. The last 2 races to me are the best, highest quality races on the card, and even though the second to last race not a great field that we're going to look at from a numbers perspective, there is some nice talent here for the Cal-bred sprinters. Let's take a look at it. It's the Don Val Prado California Cup Sprint. It's only a field of 5, but you got 2 big names in here. The Chosen Vron, who won the Bing Crosby Grade 1, guys, at Del Mar over the summer. And then our good friend Brickyard Ride, who is still fast and just ran in the San Antonio, losing to Newgrange, who I didn't like at all and was completely wrong about in that race, for Lewis and JJ Hernandez. There's our picks on the screen. Guys, we're all going with the Grade 1 winner, the Chosen Vron. I'll go first, guys. Look, the horse is 2 to 5 morning line, okay? So it's not like we're being creative here. I just think he's better than Brickyard Ride. I realize Brickyard Ride is going to get the lead. I'm sure we all recognize that unless something weird happens. But assuming Barrios can just sit off that one and go by, he's in great form. He's turning back. He just beat what I think is a really talented horse in Big City Lights, who we saw last weekend. There's nothing to knock this horse. I just think he's better now at this point of their careers in Brickyard Ride. That's really all. I think it's a 2-horse race. If anyone else wins, I'll be shocked. Guys?
Paul, go ahead.
I agree. I think we talk a lot, Howard. When you see, well, I didn't have the morning line, but I knew this horse was going to be under even money.
That seems a little silly, though, to be honest. 2 to 5, Paul. I think it's more like 4 to 5, 9 to 5.
I don't know. Remember, there's not enough horses in the race, Howard, for people to waste money on.
That's true.
When you get an 8-horse field, you're going to have people playing horses who have no chance because they like the name or any of that nonsense.
Yeah.
So, but in this race, it's the 2 and 5, and then I'm thinking, well, could the 2 be over the top? They run on him a lot, but if you look, he had a very measured campaign. March to May, 2 months, to July, 2 months, to November, 3 months. Then he ran him back just because that was a free space in the state bred race, and it's $100,000 race. Pick up the $60,000. That's a workout, that Cary Grant race. And now he's back to just about 2 months. So yeah, I couldn't think that the horse was over the top, and I just couldn't think that he might bounce. 3 triple-digit buyers, which is towers over these guys. Brickyard Ride has one way 2 years ago for 101, but yeah, hey, anything can happen. I'm not. You want to try to beat him in the sequence, that blows it up. So I'm all in favor of trying to blow it up, but I'm just going to try to. I'm gonna press it up instead of try to blow it up.
By the way, hello to Carolyn Pillars, the wife of
Any relation to Jim?
Carolyn, thanks for joining the show, Carolyn. We appreciate it. I realize she says that something is over her head. Just for people that are, don't follow horse racing much, we do talk quite in depth about the past performances, but we also try to simplify things. So Carolyn and anyone else out there, if you ever have any questions about what we're referring to, please don't feel like that any question is a silly question. So we want to teach, we want to have people learn. If you have any questions, Carolyn, about what we're speaking of, please feel free. Pete, there's something that I want to mention about this race, and then we'll talk about the last race. And I think this is an important handicapping angle that I believe in. A lot of people think, well, Brickyard Ride will be better if it's a shorter race, and this is only 6 furlongs. The pace is going to be faster, right? Because it's 6 than if it were a 7 or a mile 16th. And as these horses get older, like Brickyard Ride, who now turns 7, I actually think they're more effective going a little bit longer, where they can slow the pace down a little bit early, as opposed to like having to battle with the Chosen Vron, like a half into the race, because they're not as young and precocious as they used to be. So for me, Pete, it's a fallacy in this spot that Brickyard Ride will be better going shorter. Do you have an opinion on that thought?
No, I agree with you. And I don't think I don't think there's one rule that covers everything, but I think in this particular case and in this particular horse, in this particular race, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I think the only thing that would happen is if the Chosen Vron, something trip related happens to the Chosen Vron, then Brickyard Ride does have the class and the speed combo to probably outlast the rest of the field.
Yeah.
But the Chosen Vron, the way he runs, he could sit close enough to where he's not going to be too far off, and he's going to pressure Brickyard Ride a lot earlier than Brickyard Ride. Brickyard Ride likes it and is going to be going a little too fast. Brickyard Ride will be a little winded from going a little faster to try and hold that lead early. So I agree with you 100%.
And you know what, Paul, another from a strategic standpoint, if it were me riding Chosen Vron, which they wouldn't want because I'm slightly over the 124 right now.
I bet the 5 then.
Just slightly over. I might be okay on the scales. I would take it to Brickyard Ride. Like, let Brickyard Ride go, but don't sit 2 lengths off and get cute, because I don't think Brickyard Ride has fight, Paul. We've seen this horse run. I think if you put pressure on Brickyard Ride early, I think he'll collapse, and I'm not worried about a lot of closers. So if I were riding the Chosen Vron, I wouldn't sit back 2 lengths and let Brickyard Ride get comfortable and maybe have a small chance of this horse getting away from me. Do you agree with that? A tactic for Barrios, Paul, to maybe go after the Brickyard Ride a little bit earlier than normal?
Well, I do agree, especially if no one else goes with them, right?
Yeah, well, who else could go
Yeah, the
with them?
fourth.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe the
I'll be
three. I
honest
don't
with you.
know.
I don't know at this point. Brickyard Ride went to the lead by a head in a mile and a 16th race. Now, obviously, you look on the page and there's a lot of sprints down the bottom that he did lead, but I wouldn't envision the chosen Braun having that much of a problem staying within shouting distance. To your point, Howard, I really wouldn't.
Yeah, I would expect him, Barris, to be sitting right off one way or another. I'm sure he'd love to see the 3 go after the 5. I just don't. The 3's an 8-year-old who's taking blinkers off, guys. So I just don't. I don't see it. Anyway, I think we've talked enough about this race. It's there's a huge favorite. If you beat the huge favorite, you're really going to get paid. I'm going to use Brickyard Ride. I'll just say it, even though I said I wasn't. I'm going to use Brickyard Ride as a B, just in case, and that's it. I'm just using 2-5. Anyone else wins, I'm just going to lose. I wouldn't even waste any other more money. Let's go to the last race. This race to me is the best race of the sequence we're talking about. I think it's pretty deep. I think it's competitive. I think there's some talent, and let's talk about it. The last race, the closeout leg. It's the Unusual Heat Turf Classic, named after a great Cal-bred Unusual Heat. Presented by City National Bank, by the way. So if you lose money, you can go to the bank and get your money back. A mile and 1/8, field of 10. Nice field. I was shocked with the morning line, guys. And, a lot of people, I've got an email. You guys have no idea. Like, why do you keep talking about morning lines? Morning lines matter. I had a long conversation with a few people about this last week. A nice conversation. You play horizontally, Paul, like I do. Pete, you play horizontally, of course, too. If people don't think morning lines matter, I guarantee you, if a pick 5 pays 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, but the morning lines of those 2-1s were like 6-1 instead of like 9-5, I guarantee you the pick 5 pays at least 2 or 3 times more the parlay. So it absolutely does matter to me. And Kings River Night, guys, is 6-5. He's a nice horse. I think that's crazy talk. But anyway, Sadler and JJ Hernandez. Let's see who we're going with. And Pete, you and I are going to go with Aligato, while Paul's going to go with Bally's Charm. So, Paul, talk about Bally's Charm for Mullins and Berrios, 4-1 morning line. He's fast and he's getting really good right now. The question to me is, does Bally's Charm get the distance?
Well, the PPs would indicate yes, because he's run it 3 times and won twice and finished third the other time. You talked about the misnomer of, maybe Brickyard Ride wanting it shorter.
Yes.
There's another misnomer out there, and I think it's especially true on turf. That speed horses necessarily want it shorter. Remember, if the race is longer, very likely the pace is going to be a little more measured, which means the leader will have a greater chance of maintaining that speed. And I think Easter in this race would be 1-20.
Yes.
Okay, and this horse missed by a half length, ran really well. I loved Easter in that race, like everyone else.
You like Easter in
horse
general, don't you, though, Paul?
I do. It's a big day. It's number one
day
in our calendar.
Absolutely.
I once had an argument. This has nothing to do with anything, but I once, in like the 7th grade in a religion class, they asked us what was the most important day of the year. And of course, everyone said Christmas, right? Jesus is born on Christmas. And then they explained why it's Easter. And I get it now. But anyway, I digress.
The rails were out, by the way. Did you guys check to see if the rails are going to be out on Saturday? I did not.
I did not.
That. It matters to me a little bit. Let's just see. Sorry, I've got to go back to the Equibase. It should say it on here.
Yeah, it doesn't say it in the DRF.
Well, it does not mention, so it's not. So the rails are down, which in theory helps closers. I just want to bring that up. But I do like this horse quite a bit, Paul, especially if he can get loose.
Yeah, I think so, and I like Berrios been on him 3 times, won once, ran second once. The other one was not a good race. It's coming off though a very, very long layoff. I thought this. I'm with you guys. Again, you'll see when we get to our tickets. I had 3 races that I thought were more spread races, and this is one of the 3.
Okay. I think this is the speed horse you want. I also want to mention he's only 5, guys. There's some older horses here. He just turned 5, so he still has upside. And Roy Charmant, by the way, the sire was a real nice horse. Just want to mention that as well. Pete, we are going with. I saw this name. I was thinking of one of my favorite Styx songs, the band Styx, because Domo Aligato missed, and I'm like, no, wait, it's Domo Arigato,
Yeah.
not Aligato. But hey, sounds close enough. So all you Mr. Roboto fans, maybe you're gonna cheer for the misspelled Aligato instead of Arigato. In all seriousness, Pete, this to me is the one that I want at this distance. And I don't know how you feel. I'm gonna let you talk about it. But for me, if you look really carefully at all the other horses, yes, the 3 is 1 in a mile and 1/8. But I think if someone were to ask me, Howard, who's the horse that's gonna be best going 9 panels? To me, it's Aligato.
Yeah, I agree. And I think especially if there is a decent pace up front, which I think for the detriment of the 3, I think there's possibility that there could be a hotter pace up front. And then if that does take place, then I want a horse coming from off a bit. Yeah, Time Form thinks that there is. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. We know Time Form isn't always exact. So sometimes
Right.
they're right. Sometimes a horse just gets loose and it throws out everything that you were thinking about. But yeah, that was my thought. Again, this horse actually won this race in 2023, which
Yeah.
is always cool. That was actually this horse's last win was in this race in 2023. And I agree with you. I think in the last 2 was running against some decent horses. I kind of like the fields in the last 2. I just thought there was enough pace. I think this horse fits at this level, basically at the, in the sort of the non-graded state bred races, stake races, I think just sort of fits and picks up Pratt again. So we should be able to work out a decent trip. So even though this horse comes from off the pace, you sort of trust Pratt to be not too far back and to be in position to pounce if the speed does heat up on the front end.
I saw 0 for 7 in 2023 with 4 seconds and 3/3 speed. And I was like, I know, Paul, I see you're shaking your head. You agree. But then, like you said, look, he's been in open company, though, facing SEAL Team, Tio Magico, Almendaris. I mean, so I just don't. Normally, that would concern me. It just doesn't concern me as much, Paul, in this particular situation.
Yeah, I picked the horse second, and Pete, don't look now. He won the race in 22 and ran second in 23.
Oh, what did I say? Did I say 22? Yes, sorry. You're right. You're right. I apologize. I meant to say
he's a big alumnus of this race.
Yes, his last win was in 22 in this one, but he was pretty close last year. So he likes this race for whatever reason. This is his race. So hopefully we can reverse.
No, and Howard, that's a good point. The open company point is a good point, but again, he did get beat in this race by a neck last year. You look down and there's a race down the hill, an optional claimer loses by a nose, and I start to wonder if he might be a little camera shy.
It's fair.
Yeah.
He does pick.
I picked him second, so don't get me wrong. I picked him second, so
guys,
he's in a.
We're not getting 6 to 1, are we? I mean, really? 6?
I mean, I guess it depends
No.
how much I don't know if the 5 is going to be. I can't imagine the 5 is going to be that low as Morning Line. It just doesn't. It just seems low. I mean, I guess the figures though, Morning Line a lot of times is based on what the people buyer wise will look like, and this one there's a lot of 1s and there's a lot of 90 somethings, so that's enough for people to bet as a favorite. And it's JJ on a Sadler horse, so even though Sadler's been sucking so far this meet, but there's there's a lot for the horse to be the favorite, but I don't know about 6 to 5. That's crazy.
Here's the thing, and I don't even have this horse in the money, but I realize he can win if you look really closely, guys, and you got to do it. I mean, what are his best races, especially by time form, Pete? His best races by time form are on the dirt going a mile. I mean, the further he goes, it looks like the worse he gets. So what is he going to do? He's going to sit off of Bally's Charm going a mile to 8th. He's going to go by that serious horse and then hold off other good ones. I don't see it. And I hope this horse is 4 to 5. And I get why he's 6 to 5, because like you said, Pete, people see 1, 1, 1. Look carefully, everyone. I'm not sure this horse wants to go 9 furlongs, and the pace scenario is going to be tricky here. He's got to chase a really good horse. I'm against him. I'm going to use him. I'm against him. I almost rather use a horse like the one guys, none above the law, who's 8-1 morning line. But I think wants distance. I mean, he's been against Gold Phoenix for God's sakes, going 1.3 miles, and I think wants longer. And is Peter Miller with Rosario at a price like I think none above the law is interesting. I'm against the 5. If the 5 wins, I might lose my pick 5, but I'm okay with that, guys. I really am. You've got the 5 and thirds. So you guys sort of agree a little bit also.
No,
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I agree.
And at that price,
There you go.
Howard, and again, I didn't have the prices, but
Yeah.
I was kind of leaning against them anyway. At 6-5, I'm really leaning against them.
Yeah, and I agree. We're not getting 6-1 with Pratt. You got to pay the
No.
Pratt tax, just like the IRAD tax,
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
out there. So anyway, guys, let's go to the. I'm just looking at other things on the chat. No, we're good. Appreciate everyone in the live chat. By the way, our viewership has been tremendous. And guys, we realize January is a little bit down. December is a little bit of down kind of time in horse racing. But 2 weeks we have the Pegasus, and then a month from that we got Saudi, and then we got the Derby preps are firing up. So we appreciate everyone listening and watching, and realize it's a little bit of a downtime for horse racing, but it's never a downtime for us. Let's talk about our pick 5, guys. We'll bring them on the screen right now, and then we'll go ahead and end the show in a proper amount of time. Pete, we're going to go with you first. You're going 2, 4, 5, 9 with 3, 4, 5 with 1, 2, 6, 8 with 2 3 5, 7 $96 under the wonderful landscape of the San Gabriels in the background. Talk about your ticket, Pete.
Yeah, I thought the first race there was a chance me and you like Asada Fries. I like that horse, but I thought there was a few others that sort of made sense. And there's a few horses I like that were closers here. So I hate depending on closers too much because you never know if you're going to get the pace set up, especially against a track like Santa Anita, depending upon which surface you're on. In the second leg, again, I didn't like the race. It wasn't a big field, though. I did leave out the 7 Bags Gold, who should take a bunch of money. So if that horse gets bet a little more, maybe one of my other ones wins, then that could be one where you can get a price. Third leg, I went a little bit deeper, even though I really do like that 2 Rose Maddox that we talked about. In the fourth leg, Chosen Braun. I think if you're going to sing, you can't play multiple horses on the A line or on the Caveman with the Chosen Braun if you're going to have him on your ticket. And then in the last leg, I think that race is pretty wide open. I went with the ones we talked about, and then I threw in the 2 Carmelita's Man, who I like is another closer, who I like to at least hit the board. But again, if the pace really heats up, I think the 2 along with the 7 Aligato could be the ones picking up the pieces.
I like the ticket, $96. I do think you can get paid, but you are going to have to find you have to beat some favorites if you want to get paid.
You have to beat a couple, yeah, especially if Chosen Braun is 1 to 5 or whatever he's going to wind up being.
Yeah. Paul, look at Paul. Paul's not going to spend more than 100. Thank you,
Nice.
Paul. Not only that, he's going to say, you know what, Howard? I'm going to bet a dang $2 ticket and try to hit this 4 times. He's going 2, 4, 5, 7 with 1, 3, 4 with the deuce. With the deuce again, he's going 2 and then 2 singles in a row with 2, 3, 5, 7, 2 singles on the same pick 5. That's an interesting concept. Paul, talk about your ticket.
Well, but I mean, again, I think we're operating under the assumption that Chosen Braun is somewhat of a free space. So I'm looking at it as 1 single. But I do like that Rose Maddox, and I think it is going to be difficult to get paid here, unless you beat the Chosen Braun, and then you get paid. But if you're going to use the Chosen Braun, I decided, I'm going to try to hit it more than once, and I do think those other 3 legs are more wide open. So I didn't want to go too deep in the Rose Maddox race and double the price of the ticket. So you could have that for $24, an economical $24 for 50 cents. I'll play it if I were to play it that way. I would play it 4 times, and I look at it as maybe it pays $1,000 for 2, or 800. Again, I don't see it blown, but who knows? But that's the way I would approach it. I would be pressing this week.
like you said, I mean, you basically have to look at this as a pick four, right? If the chosen Vron wins, how much would a pick four pay is really what you're
Right.
looking at. So pressing up is certainly not a bad idea, which is why I'll be playing ABCs and pressing up with my A's and A1B, etc. So we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna do something that I've not done in a while. And Paul, you cheeky fella, look what I'm doing. I have two singles also, but my singles are different. And so we're thinking the same way. I'm gonna go very spready early and just hope to get a price, and then I have very strong opinions late. My ticket is $90. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. With 1, 3, 4, I added the 4 in there out of respect to you, Paul. There, 1, 3, 4 with 5, 7, 8. With 1, 2, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to single the chosen Vron. And you know what, Pete and Paul? I'm going to take a stand and single Allegato. I really like Allegato in this spot. Maybe, he's got seconitis or whatever. I just like the way this is going to set up. I'm going to back up with the 3. I'm against the 5 in that race. I'll use others defensively, of course, in my ABC. But I don't know. I'm being a little creative here, at least in my opinion, and go single. Try to get a price early, $90. So there you go. Everyone, different philosophies, right? We got singles, we got more spready tickets without singles. A lot of different ways to go, guys. As we wrap up the show, quick final thoughts. Anything in the hopper you want to mention, Pete? We'll have you go first. Anything in your world or anything horse racing? Just anything at all.
I'll stick to something horse racing. So I took my dog to the vet yesterday for a regular old. She had to get a vaccine shot. Nothing exciting, but
How's she doing? Guppy, right?
Guppy. She's doing
how is
awesome.
Guppy? That's a great name. By the way.
Guppy is fantastic. Yes, we did not name her. That was the name she came with when we adopted her. But
love the name.
The office manager at my vet, Katie. I don't know if she's watching. But she
Shout out,
Hello, Katie. She is a member of the partnership Designated Hitters Racing, and they won the ownership title at Laurel this year. And they are relatively smaller. She did tell me, she's like, the owner who actually had the most wins was in enough partnerships that their wins sort of got spread out, so they weren't all aggregated. But nice. They won the race. They won the ownership title. And I was shocked when I saw it on Twitter because I didn't think they had that many horses. So I was happy to hear, and I was happy to see that. So I wanted to congratulate her and her husband, Chris, and the rest of the ownership partners on screen to say congratulations. I'm happy to hear that and keep it going. And actually, if you go on our website and our photos, if you go way back to, I think, 2021 photos, there's pictures of me, my wife, and my son visiting their farm and visiting their barn way back. So her and her husband walked us around and we met some of the horses. So they're awesome. The place was awesome. And I'm happy to see that a nice barn like that of people that just, a nice little partnership was able to take down the racing title. Had a pretty decent meet at Laurel.
Very cool. Nice story, Pete. I like that. Paul?
Well, Howard, I have some bad news and some good news. So I want to end on a high note. But the bad news is we want to send out our condolences to Bill and Riley Mott. Riley's 2-year-old daughter, Margot, who has been battling brain cancer for the last 3.5 months, passed away. I believe it was overnight into Tuesday. She had been treated at St. Jude's in Memphis, getting great care. God love Riley was doing the triangle from Gulfstream to Memphis to Oaklawn. And apparently, according to a story that I read yesterday, I think at some point over the last 2 weeks, they basically sent her home. And, so it just, it's tragic when anyone goes, obviously, but you look at a 2-year-old smiling face and, just a terrible thing. So thoughts and prayers go out to Riley and his wife, Megan, and Bill and his wife, Tina. And, obviously I've spent a little more time around Bill this year than I normally would through my Cody's Wish antics. And, he's just a great guy, and we hate to see that happen. On the good news front, I want to send out congratulations to my colleague, Sean Clancy.
Yes.
And we were all there that day, Howard, and of course, I played a small role in it. I got the hell out of his way. I was covering that race, and of course, we were all looking at each other like, okay, now what? And Sean had the wherewithal to walk back to the barn with Brendan Walsh and those who read the special that next day. I read it the next day and said, that's the Eclipse Award winning story for news. And
Yes.
that was only in August. It was just, because he just handled it so well with the Pretty Mischievous winning and, obviously the tragedy of Maple Leaf Mel. So I ended up, I did play my role. I missed dinner with the group because of it, because I said kind of jokingly to Tom Law, I said, well, tell him if you want, because he texted Tom Law and said, I'm with Brendan, meaning Brendan Walsh, obviously, who had Pretty Mischievous. So I kind of jokingly said, tell him if he wants to swap, because, Sean always covers the feature race, and he had the Whitney. I said, well, if he wants to swap, tell him. And he got right back. He said, yeah, go ahead. So, I was obviously pleased to chip in and pleased that they entrusted me with the Whitney, the second biggest race of the year. But Sean just did a great job. And second year in a row, Tom Law won one last year for Mid-Atlantic Thoroughbred, and Sean this year. So as I texted Joe Clancy the other day, I said, Joe, I guess the pressure's on. So,
Yeah.
But it was just a phenomenal job by Sean under very, very difficult circumstances. And, we usually publish twice a week. That particular week, 6 days in a row because of the sale. So it's the Whitney weekend going right into the sale. So that was that thing had to be done right away on deadline. And Tom says it was the cleanest piece of deadline copy he's ever seen. So hats off to Sean. I'm just so proud to be affiliated with those guys and really happy for Sean.
Yeah, no, congratulations, Sean. And Paul, we'll be waiting for your Eclipse Award in the next few years because you're going to get it, my friend. There's no doubt about it. Pete and I have extra votes. I'm from Chicago. He's Italian. We're going to put some extra votes in there for you. Take care of it.
That's what we need.
So a few quick things on mine, and then we'll wrap up the show. Unfortunately, guys, Chicago is going to get blasted with a foot of snow tomorrow. And then there's going to be like blizzard-like conditions. And then it's going to be like -2 for a high on Monday. So, Pete, I know this sounds awful. My life is just really sucks these days. The next few days, I'm going to be stuck at home. I'm going to have to watch NFL playoffs and bet horses. I mean,
oh, man.
Oh,
I'm sorry, man. Condolences. Condolences.
Thoughts and prayers to him, Pete.
I was going to say that sounds like heaven to me. So I feel bad for someone like you. I feel bad that has your life has to come down to. Yeah. Just make sure you stock up on food. Make sure there's a lot of food in the house. That's all you need.
I actually did do that. That's funny you said that. I have a horse running Saturday, guys. Certified lover boy for Adelphi Racing, who is the horse that won for me in Saratoga. I have an ownership piece of that horse. Is running Saturday, race 8 from the rail in a very tough N1X. He's gonna have to. He is newly gelded because look, when these horses don't run well, we punish them. No, that has nothing to do with it. But it's a tough race. But anyway, cheer myself on in Adelphi. He's the one horse race 8 on Saturday. I don't know what the morning line. He's got to be like 10 or 12 to 1. It's not an easy field at all. And then finally, Monday, horsing around with Pete Visco, myself, Monday night, and Tom Espinoza. We're going to recap a few of the big races from this weekend and talk about Golden Gate and some California racing, guys. So it should be a lot of fun. I want to appreciate everyone watching the show tonight, episode 323 of Picks and Ponies for my co-hosts, Paul Halloran and Pete Visco. This has been Howard Kravitz. Crush your bets this Saturday on Cal Cup Day at Santa Anita. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.